Hello, I'm a woman in my 40s, who recently went through something incredibly amazing and unbelievable. You've probably heard the saying that the people you are meant to meet will always find their way back to you, even if it takes time. It's a belief that fateful connections exist, even outside of romantic relationships. I personally experienced the wonder of one of those destined relationships, and I wanted to share this amazing experience with all of you. I was born in Seoul. When I was very young, my family of 4, my parents, my younger brother, and I lived in a single rented room attached to someone else's house. Back then, many detached houses were built this way. The homeowner lived on the spacious upper floor, and the room below was rented out. My dad worked in a factory back then. When I was about 6, my parents, after much deliberation, bought a small rice mill in the market. At the time, a rice mill was quite a lucrative business, if it was well established. So, my parents learned the trade from the previous owners, who were closing due to health issues, poured in all their savings, and even borrowed money from acquaintances to invest in our future. They worked incredibly hard at the rice mill business they started. Thanks to their efforts, our family rose to the middle class, and when I was 10, we were able to buy a detached house and move. When we moved, my parents decided to rent out the small basement apartment attached to our house at a low price. We had gone from being tenants to becoming landlords. However, my parents, having been tenants themselves, didn't want to charge a high rent. Among the many people who came to see the house, my parents signed a contract with a woman who looked very worn out and troubled. She looked younger than my parents and brought her daughter, who was 2 years younger than me. She suddenly began pleading with my parents, "Excuse me, would you be able to lower the rent by 20,000 won? No, even just 10,000 won. And maybe knock about 100,000 won off the deposit? Oh dear, ma'am, we've already put it up at a low price. We can't lower it any further." I know I'm being shameless, but I recently got divorced, and I'm desperately looking for a place to live with my daughter. I was kicked out with almost nothing, and I barely have any money. I have to stay in an inn right now, but I won't be able to afford it for more than a few days. Please help me just a little. When my situation improves, I promise, I'll raise both the deposit and the monthly rent. My parents were troubled, but they said it was difficult to turn away the woman and her pitiful-looking daughter. Having gone through tough times themselves, they couldn't treat it as a matter for someone else. So, in the end, my parents decided to help her, even if it meant a small loss for them. However, Aunt Sarah looked pale from the moment she first arrived and often coughed. At the time, tuberculosis patients were still common, and my parents were very worried. "Lily's mom, at first I thought it was just a cold, but you keep coughing. Could it be TB?" No, it's just a cold that has lasted for a long time. It's because I haven't been eating well." She insisted it was just a severe cold, but her coughing didn't stop, and her complexion seemed to worsen. Even to my young eyes, she looked like a very sick patient. It was the middle of winter, but she kept the windows open, which Mom thought was strange. One day, my parents discussed it with serious expressions. "Is she really a TB patient? I heard it's contagious. Is she ventilating so often to prevent her daughter from catching it? We have 2 children here, too. I'm worried." But she denied it last time, didn't she? She must be denying it because she's afraid of being kicked out if she's caught. She said no, but she couldn't look me in the eye at all. I think she's hiding something. I'll have to ask her properly again tomorrow. The next day, Mom met Aunt Sarah in the yard and aggressively questioned her. This was about a month after she had moved into our house. I peered out through the open window of the living room and watched the scene unfold. Aunt Sarah suddenly knelt before my mother and began begging desperately, "I'm sorry, you're right, I do have tuberculosis. My husband constantly abused me, calling me an orphan and saying I was useless because I couldn't have a son. When he found out I had TB, he kicked me out with just my daughter and the clothes on my back. But I wear a mask often and ventilate well. I promise I won't let anything spread to this house. If I'm kicked out of here too, my daughter and I will really have to sleep on the streets. Please, save us. You need treatment if you're sick. Do you think the disease won't spread just because you don't want it to? No, no. If I bear with it a little longer, it will get better on its own. How much do you think treatment costs? Where would I get the money? If TB could be cured naturally, why would people be so afraid of it? Does that make any sense? We have 2 children, too. How can we just keep a TB patient in our house? And Lily's mom, you keep coughing. Are you not able to find a job because of it? To work, earn money, and raise your child, you need to get treatment somehow. Or are you planning to endure it foolishly and die, leaving your child alone? Mom sighed, frustrated, and Aunt Sarah wept, pleading not to be thrown out. She even begged my parents to at least let her daughter stay in the house while she herself would sleep outside. Even to my young eyes, she looked heartbreakingly desperate. That night, my parents discussed it with even heavier expressions. She says she can't get treatment because she has no money. It's frustrating because we can't just conjure money up for her. Oh, I know, but we can't kick a sick person out in this dead of winter. Nevertheless, my parents made a very kind decision. They decided to lend Aunt Sarah the full amount for her treatment first. Mom called her to our house, offered her a cup of tea, and told her the news. Aunt Sarah was so startled that her hands trembled and tears flowed. Me? Really? I don't own anything, and I don't have a job yet, but you'll really lend me the treatment money? It's not just a small sum. We looked into roughly how much it costs. Of course, we haven't known each other long, but what can we do? We have to save a person first. You can pay it all back later when you recover and find a job. Honestly, we're not charity workers, so we wonder if this is the right thing to do. But isn't meeting like this a kind of fate? They say even the brushing of sleeves is fate. We have 2 children, too, so when we see Lily, she doesn't feel like a stranger. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. I will never forget this kindness, even if I die. Afterward, with my parents' help, Aunt Sarah was admitted and isolated in a TB ward to begin treatment. Fortunately, her daughter, Lily, had not been infected yet, and my parents began looking after the girl who was left alone. They couldn't just leave a small child alone in the house. Lily, eat this, too. Why are you just picking at the anchovies when there's delicious meat here? See, can I really eat this, too? I thought I wasn't supposed to do. Why? Did you think we'd discriminate about food because you're not a member of our family? Your aunt and uncle are not those kinds of people. Hurry up and eat. Eat plenty, and if you need more, have more. Lily, who suddenly came to live with us, was very timid at first, being an introverted child who had spent her life constantly watching her father's moods. Our house felt awkward and scary to her. My parents comforted Lily and took good care of her, and I also looked after her like a younger sister. I was happy to have a younger sister since I only had a younger brother, who was a year younger than Lily. Lily shared my room, and I generously shared my dolls and toys with her. At first, she was shy, but later, she followed me everywhere, calling me sister. Sister. 2 months later, Aunt Sarah was discharged and began outpatient treatment, and Lily returned to her side. However, we still remained close. At that time, Aunt Sarah's disease was no longer contagious, but she was not completely cured and still had a persistent cough. Because of this, she couldn't easily find a job. I'm sorry, sir and ma'am. Even though the doctor said it's no longer contagious, everyone avoids me and won't hire me. I'll find a job quickly, pay the overdue rent, and repay the treatment money I borrowed. Since she had already been indebted for the treatment money and couldn't even pay the rent, Aunt Sarah was very conscious of my parents. My parents watched her and decided, if we're going to help, let's help until the end, and hired her at their rice mill. Aunt Sarah wept endlessly at my parents' suggestion that she just work at the rice mill. How can I ever repay this kindness? My parents awkwardly comforted her, Afterward, Aunt Sarah, who still had a persistent cough, was mainly put in charge of operating the machinery and packaging inside the shop. So, she mostly worked in the back, but sometimes she came out to the front of the shop. Once, an elderly woman saw Aunt Sarah standing in front of the shop and frowned. I happened to be playing near the shop with Lily and witnessed the scene. The elderly woman, seeing Aunt Sarah quickly try to hide a cough, said to Mom, "Boss, why are you hiring that questionable woman? I heard she's divorced. How do you know who she is or where she came from? I feel uneasy buying oil here. You should fire her if you can." Aunt Sarah lowered her head, not knowing what to do. Mom, however, shielded Aunt Sarah and spoke firmly, "If a husband is trash, a woman has every right to divorce him. Why are you bringing up her divorce here? She is a very close friend of mine. I vouch for her background. She was sick, but the doctor said the contagion is gone, and she will be fully cured soon. So, apologize immediately for speaking so carelessly in front of my friend. She is a sensitive and kind person. Who are you to judge her? Don't come here. I won't sell you any oil even if you want to buy it." When Mom stood her ground so firmly, the elderly woman was flustered and quickly left. Aunt Sarah burst into tears again upon seeing Mom defend her. "Ma'am, what if all your customers leave? Don't worry, our shop has a good reputation in this market. Don't be discouraged when you haven't done anything wrong." My parents thought highly of Aunt Sarah, who worked 2 or 3 times harder than anyone else. They also had high trust in her, because she consistently saved up her meager wages to pay back the treatment money first. That's why Mom defended her so strongly. Eventually, our two families grew closer. Mom and Aunt Sarah became like sisters, calling each other sister and younger sister. Aunt Sarah even started calling my dad brother-in-law. Naturally, my brother and I started calling Aunt Sarah Aunt, and Lily started calling my mom Aunt as well. However, Lily just called my dad Uncle, which he secretly found a bit disappointing. Why am I just uncle and not brother-in-law? I thought I had a cute niece, but now I'm disappointed. Aunt Sarah finally received a clean bill of health, and recovered a year after starting her treatment. Even after that, my parents continued to look after Lily and Aunt Sarah, who had become like family. Aside from her wages, they shared oil and grains from the shop, often asked us to take meat dishes to Lily's house, or simply invited them over for dinner. When we went on summer vacations, they always made sure to take Lily and Aunt Sarah with us. Thanks to them, our small car was packed, but the memories we made together brought complete happiness to our home. Since our house and school were not far from the market, my younger brother, Lily, and I often played near the rice mill where my parents worked. My brother was busy playing with the boys, so Lily and I usually played together. Once, we ran into some school friends who were ostracizing Lily for being poor. I called them over and gave them a stern telling off. "Hey, if Lily is poor, then those of you who make fun of her are even poorer in spirit. I'm Lily's big sister. Try mocking my sister again, and I'll come find your houses." Since our bond was so strong, Lily became my shadow, and Lily was a very good student. Aunt Sarah was heartbroken because she couldn't afford to send Lily to a cram school, or even buy her many textbooks. At that time, my parents helped Lily study more. They paid for Lily's cram school tuition, and bought her textbooks and school supplies. My parents said to Aunt Sarah, who was crying tears of gratitude again, "These days, some companies offer tuition support benefits for their employees' children, right? This is a workplace benefit. A benefit. Stop crying, you big baby." 7 years after Aunt Sarah first came to our house, she met a very good man through a matchmaker, an elder in the market who thought highly of her and remarried, moving to another region. On the day she met the man, Lily told me, looking uneasy, "Sister, I think my mom and that man are really going to get married." "Then why the long face? Don't you like him?" "No, he's a good man who treats both mom and me very well. I heard he runs a small business in the countryside." so he seems to have some money. But if Mom and he get married, I'll have to leave you, sister. Lily was sad about having to part with me, the sister she had grown up with. I felt the same way, but the inevitable farewell couldn't be stopped, as Aunt Sarah had to move with Lily. The man who remarried Aunt Sarah was indeed a good person. On the day they moved, he even gave a gift of appreciation to my parents. My parents tried not to accept it, but Aunt Sarah held Mom's hands tightly and said, "This is for all the debts I couldn't repay. Sister, thank you so much for everything. Brother-in-law, I owe you a kindness I can never fully repay. I'll come to visit sometimes." We grew distant, but Mom and Aunt Sarah kept in touch regularly. Lily and I also corresponded occasionally through pagers and letters, and it seemed they were doing very well with her stepfather. However, a year after Lily moved, all contact with Aunt Sarah and Lily suddenly stopped. Since cell phones were not widely distributed yet, Lily and I didn't have them. My parents only had one for business calls at the shop. Aunt Sarah, who was mostly at home, didn't have a mobile phone, so Mom and she usually called each other's landlines, or Aunt Sarah would call my parents' cell phone, but after a certain point, no calls came from her, and no one answered when we called her home. Lily also didn't reply to my letters or pager messages. Worried, Mom went directly to the address where Lily and I had exchanged letters. I was worried about Lily too, so I followed Mom, but no matter how many times we rang the doorbell, no one came out. After asking around, we heard a shocking story. That family. They ran away in the middle of the night. The man's business went bankrupt, and they fled from the creditors. The creditors were causing a huge scene when they came to the house, unaware they had left. I think they must have gone into hiding to avoid being found by the creditors. The man's business had gone bankrupt barely a year after they remarried. Hearing that story, Mom cried heartbrokenly. "Oh, Sarah. You had just found some peace in your life. What kind of misfortune is this? Why is your life so turbulent?" Afterward, my parents tried everything to find out about them, but no matter how much they searched, it was no use. In the end, our family could only hope in our hearts that Lily and Aunt Sarah were safe. Later, when I entered nursing school, our family moved due to the neighborhood's redevelopment. Because of this, our home phone number changed, and my parents' cell phone number was also changed shortly after. Similarly, talks of redevelopment in the market began, and the rice mill, whose sales were dropping due to changing times, was sold. All the connections we had to the two of them disappeared. Even so, our family often missed them, but at some point, our own family began to slowly collapse. First, after selling the rice mill, my parents opened a Korean barbecue restaurant. However, unlike the rice mill, the restaurant business did not go well. In the midst of all this, Mom was diagnosed with cancer and passed away when I was 26. As a nurse, I tried to use all my connections and medical knowledge to save her, but cruel fate ultimately took her away. After we sent Mom off, Dad eventually closed the barbecue restaurant. He said he couldn't bear to run it, because it reminded him too much of Mom and broke his heart. But soon after, Dad lost all the money he'd made from selling the restaurant. I was a fool. I was too ignorant of the ways of the world. All the money I earned with your mother through so much hardship, I lost it all. Dad had listened to an acquaintance, who said a certain investment was sure to be a huge success and made a reckless investment. He had been a merchant all his life, and couldn't stop blaming himself for being so naive about the world. Because of that investment, Dad lost not only the money from the shop, but also our house. Our family ended up having to move into a shabby, rented apartment we barely managed to find. In an instant, our home completely collapsed. Dad, who was already struggling after Mom passed away, suffered a tremendous shock and fell into severe depression. The sickness of his mind eventually led to the sickness of his body, and 4 years after Mom passed away, Dad followed her. Sister, how can the world be so unfair? Mom and Dad lived such good lives. Why are these tragedies happening to us? What are we going to do now? It's just you and me left in this world. We have to protect each other and live on. My parents had done nothing wrong but live good, hard-working lives. I wondered why this tragedy kept striking us. I truly resented the heavens. Even so, my brother and I clung to each other, and bravely lived our lives, determined not to worry our parents in heaven. Later, in my mid-30s, I married Daniel, a man 1 year my senior. Daniel was a good person who looked after my now alone brother like his own. Your parents passed away early, didn't they? You and your brother must have been very lonely. Now, think of my parents and me as your family, and rely on us a lot. I really wanted to get along well with my new family after marriage, especially since my parents were no longer around. I wanted to treat my in-laws like my own parents and be good to them. My father-in-law took pity on my situation and treated me very well. My brother-in-law, Kevin, who was a year younger than me, was a developer at a famous gaming company, and he also approached me very warmly, calling me sister-in-law. But my mother-in-law seemed to dislike me from the start. At first, I just noticed. Her eyes weren't particularly friendly when she looked at me, but after marriage, my mother-in-law kept sighing whenever she saw me. I became certain that she didn't like me. I tried hard to get closer to her, but one day she openly hurt me deeply. Mother, your hands are so small and beautiful. Why are you interested in other people's hands? Excuse me. Oh, I just wanted to get closer to you, Mother. Do family members absolutely have to be close? Ugh, I can't take this frustration anymore. I'll just be honest with you. Yes. What is it? Honestly, I really dislike, and am uncomfortable with you constantly trying to act close to me. I was against you from the start. Daniel kept insisting he liked you, and my husband nagged me not to interfere with our son's life, so I endured it. But just looking at you makes me feel sick. I was so surprised that tears instantly welled up. My mother-in-law looked disgusted and proceeded to list the reasons why she disliked me. I didn't like you from the moment I heard you were a nurse at a general hospital. My son works at a great conglomerate, and he marries a mere nurse. The world is full of women who earn more and are better in every way. But then I heard you were an orphan from a poor background, and I was truly disappointed. Think about it. Our Daniel earns well and is kind. His looks are not bad either. Aren't you too beneath him? My son could have met a good woman from a wealthy family, and benefited greatly from his in-laws, living a good life. How exasperated do you think I was to see him marry someone as insignificant as you? I feel a surge of rage every time I see you, as if you've ruined my son's life. So, stop trying to act close to me, Mother. Even though I might earn less than my husband, and even though my parents passed away early, that doesn't mean I deserve to be disrespected like this. I didn't beg for this marriage. How can you trample on my feelings, when I was once a precious child to my parents, just like your son? I really wanted to get along with you, but I'm deeply hurt. I felt so humiliated and sad that tears kept welling up, but I wiped them away and firmly stated my position to her. I worried about how upset my parents in heaven would be if I just endured this abuse. My mother-in-law then called me spoiled and tried to be even harsher, but she didn't say anything more after my husband and father-in-law shouted at her in shock. What are you doing to your daughter-in-law right now? How wonderful is the profession of a nurse, who saves lives? You've only ever sold fruit your whole life, yet you dare to judge people based on their jobs? How can you commit such a terrible and shameful act, killing a person with words in front of a nurse who saves lives? Apologize to your daughter-in-law immediately. My dear, I am sorry. Don't pay any attention to my wife's words. Mother, I told you clearly that Chloe is the most wonderful and best person I know. She's a person who even volunteers for medical missions, taking time out of her busy schedule. Apologize to her right now. Both men cornered her and demanded an apology, but my mother-in-law never apologized to me. Afterward, she continued to look down on me. I tried my best to understand her feelings and somehow get along, but her constant coldness finally made me give up. I was too hurt. One of the most painful incidents was when she disrespected me, even at a family gathering. "Ah, is this Daniel's wife, the orphan? I live far away, so I saw you at the wedding and now for the first time. But dear sister-in-law, why are you and your daughter-in-law acting so distant, like strangers? Is she really your daughter-in-law?" That day, a large event had gathered even distant relatives. My mother-in-law treated me like leftover food, and didn't introduce me to people, although my father-in-law and husband introduced me, when they and my brother-in-law were momentarily absent. My husband's aunt acknowledged my mother-in-law and me. At that moment, my mother-in-law's response shattered my self-esteem. "Yes, she is, but she's not up to my standards at all. I'm embarrassed to introduce her as my daughter-in-law when I take her around." "What? Why? I heard she's a nurse." "She's just an orphan and her earnings don't even come close to my son's." "But sister, what about that bag? Did you buy a new one?" "Oh, it's lovely." My mother-in-law openly dismissed me in front of the relative, and quickly changed the subject. Since it was in front of everyone, I decided that making a scene would only embarrass my husband and father-in-law, so I left the gathering. Instead, on the way home, I told my mother-in-law, "Mother, insulting your daughter-in-law is the same as bringing shame upon yourself. Please refrain from bad-mouthing me in front of others. I am a person with dignity." My mother-in-law twisted her lips and made a dejected expression at my words. Later, my husband, father-in-law, and brother-in-law, who had been bewildered by the earlier events, heard everything and became furious with the mother-in-law. But the more my family protected me, the more my mother-in-law resented me. She became increasingly desperate to find fault with me. My husband and I were unable to have children due to a problem on my husband's side. But my mother-in-law blamed everything on me, constantly hounding me. "This is all because of your bad energy." Nowadays, many people conceive with medical help, even if there are problems, but this is all your fault, your negative influence. Please, stop it. Is it such a great sin that my parents passed away early? Is it such a great sin that I am a nurse? Why do I have to live being attacked with such ridiculous excuses? Stop being so unreasonable. Mother, how are you going to pay for this karma later? I grew increasingly exhausted because of her. No matter how much my father-in-law, husband, and brother-in-law stood up and got angry at her, she continued to single me out and abuse me. Nevertheless, I kept going to my in-laws' house, because I enjoyed seeing my father-in-law. My brother had moved to the countryside for work after I got married, so I didn't see him often. I had no one else to rely on, but my father-in-law treated me just like his own daughter. "Chloe, do you want to have dinner with me today? I'll buy you the spicy webfoot octopus you love. Let's have a drink of soju and vent about your mother-in-law without Daniel around. If Daniel is here, you might feel sorry and not talk bad about your mother-in-law, right? But you can talk comfortably in front of me. I also dislike my wife for treating my daughter-in-law so poorly. My father-in-law told me I was a precious presence, like a daughter to him, who only had sons. What kind of father-in-law tells his daughter-in-law to badmouth her own mother-in-law? The love I received from him was so great that I found it difficult to completely avoid the in-laws' house. 6 years passed as I received both love and hurt simultaneously in my marriage. One day, my mother-in-law called me for some reason. "Yes, mother, what are you doing next weekend? Don't even bother answering, just clear your schedule. I'm going to tell Daniel to clear his schedule too." "Why?" "Kevin is finally bringing the woman he's going to marry, so, you two should come." "Oh, really? That's great news." I felt genuinely happy that my brother-in-law was getting married, but something felt strange. I wondered why my mother-in-law was telling me the news first, instead of my husband. Then I understood the reason after hearing my mother-in-law's next words. A very unpleasant reason. "My Kevin's future wife is supposedly incomparable to you. She's not a mere nurse like you, she's a specialist in internal medicine, a doctor." Plus, her family runs a business and is very wealthy. She's their only daughter. Ah, I see. I was heartbroken thinking only of Daniel, who chose such an unsuitable match. But I feel like a decade of frustration has lifted, because our Kevin met such a good woman. Anyway, a precious guest is coming, so shouldn't you, the eldest daughter-in-law, step up? Kevin is bringing his fiancée for dinner, so come early in the morning that day and prepare the feast. Even if you're insignificant, you can at least do that, right? After all, it's something anyone can do. My mother-in-law wanted to use this opportunity to order me to prepare the welcoming feast for the fiancé she liked so much. Of course, I would help prepare the food for my brother-in-law, but I was offended by my mother-in-law's words and attitude, which treated me like a maid while already treating the future daughter-in-law like a VIP. While I was usually numb and let my mother-in-law's words go in one ear and out the other, I was too upset that day and coldly responded to her, thinking of my brother-in-law, who has always cared for me. I'd like to help, but if I take the words of a mother-in-law, who doesn't even treat me like family literally, I'd be disrespecting myself. So, I will pretend I didn't hear what you said today. So, if you really want to prepare a feast, mother, do it yourself or bring a dog or a cow to do it. What? What did you just say? You said anyone could do it, didn't you? And just one more thing, I don't know what kind of person my future sister-in-law will be, but if she finds out that you're the kind of person who judges people solely by their financial status, do you think she'll want to marry into this family? You should watch your words and actions when she comes for the greeting. I'm hanging up now. There's a limit to how much you can insult a person. How dare she speak to me like that? I hung up the phone feeling completely infuriated. Naturally, my husband, who heard the story, was furious with his mother, but knowing that she wouldn't care, it offered no comfort. Afterward, I naturally didn't prepare any feast myself. However, out of consideration for my brother-in-law, I consulted with my father-in-law and husband and hired a catering service. My father-in-law paid for it. My mother-in-law angrily claimed that hospitality was all about sincerity, but she closed her mouth after hearing what my father-in-law said. If you really don't like it, clear this all away, and you can cook everything from start to finish yourself. We won't lift a finger to help. That evening, my brother-in-law brought his fiancée to the house. I was nervous and excited to meet the fiancée for the first time, hoping my brother-in-law had brought a good woman who was a suitable match for him. But the moment my eyes met the fiancé's in the living room, I froze. The person I saw was clearly someone I knew, someone whose face was familiar to me. Why you? Lily. Oh. Chloe. Sister. Is that really you? The future sister-in-law was also shocked the moment she saw me. She recognized me right away. Although she was much more mature, I could tell immediately who she was. The person was Lily, the daughter of Aunt Sarah, who had left 25 years ago. Sister, it really is you. How could I meet you here? How have you been? How have you been? Why didn't you contact us all this time? My mom and I searched everywhere for you and Aunt Sarah. You really did that? I'm sorry. There were circumstances. Sister, I really missed you. We temporarily forgot everyone around us and slowly approached. We hugged, bursting into tears. We stared at each other's faces, held hands like we did when we were kids, and marveled at this unbelievable coincidence. You became a doctor? Yes. Is your Aunt Sarah healthy? Are you still living with your stepdad? Yes. Then why are you here, sister? My husband is the older brother of the man you are going to marry. That means I'm going to be your eldest sister-in-law. Really? Oh my God. What an incredible coincidence. Are your aunt and uncle doing well? Yes, they're doing well, and both of my parents have passed away. What? Why? We urgently asked each other about our lives. Then my husband put his hand on my shoulder, temporarily stopping our conversation. Ah, honey, sorry to interrupt, but how do you know my future sister-in-law? Everyone is curious. Only then did Lily and I acknowledge the family. I introduced Lily with an emotional voice. She's the younger sister I grew up with like family, but we lost contact. She's the one. Ah, the sister you sometimes said you missed. Wow, she's my sister-in-law. Yes, isn't that amazing? Lily, I heard that story too. The one about your family being greatly indebted to another family long ago. Was that your sister's family? Yes, Kevin. That benefactor was my sister and her parents. Thank you, Kevin. I missed my sister so much, and thanks to you, I got to meet her again. My husband and brother-in-law were as astonished as we were. My father-in-law laughed heartily, saying, "How can there be such a fateful connection?" Only my mother-in-law, who clearly disliked the situation, watched everything with a sullen expression. That night's greeting focused almost entirely on the connection between me and Lily. My father-in-law was so impressed by my parents' virtuous deeds, exclaiming, "Are there such respectable people in the world?" He even glared at my mother-in-law and said, "You constantly disrespect Chloe, who comes from such an admirable family. You should be ashamed of yourself." After the greeting, Lily and I met separately. We shared all our stories. Lily said that after her stepdad's business failed, she and Aunt Sarah had fled to Japan to avoid creditors, but her stepdad rebuilt his business and repaid all his debts in Korea. I was 20 when my stepdad moved his business base back to Korea. I really wanted to go to university in Korea, so I studied for 3 years here, and was finally able to enter the medical school. After we settled down a bit, I went to look for your house, sister, but the neighborhood was already undergoing redevelopment. We had no way to find you. Ah, I see. Our timing was so off. Exactly. But Mom and I missed your family so much while we were away. It's truly amazing. But why did your aunt and uncle pass away? My mom and I missed them so much. I told Lily about the tragedy that had happened after they left. Lily cried for a long time. A few days later, I was invited to Lily's house. Aunt Sarah cried when she saw me after 25 years. "Chloe, your face looks just like it did when you were little. Let your aunt give you a hug." Aunt Sarah looked much healthier. Her husband also greeted me warmly, saying, "What a miraculous connection this is." Aunt Sarah said she had heard all about our family's situation and wept deeply, while reminiscing about my parents. Then, Lily and Aunt Sarah took me to the columbarium, where my parents were enshrined. Aunt Sarah sobbed uncontrollably. "Sister, brother-in-law, I came too late, didn't I? I'm sorry. I promised to repay your kindness for life, but I couldn't do anything until you passed." At that moment, Aunt Sarah vowed to my parents that she would now look after my brother and me. A few days later, my younger brother also had a tearful reunion with Aunt Sarah and Lily. I met Aunt Sarah again at the engagement meeting for my brother-in-law. My mother-in-law seemed very nervous. Aunt Sarah, outraged after hearing how I had been treated, spoke to my mother-in-law in a slightly cold tone. "As you've heard, Chloe is like my daughter. If it weren't for Chloe's parents, I would not be alive today. So, I intend to act as Chloe's mother going forward. I wanted to tell you, as a mother, that I ask you to take good care of both Lily and Chloe. I ask that you do not give them any reason to shed tears. Please." "Oh, yes, of course. I'm treating her just like my own daughter. Is that so? Well, then that's a relief. Oh, and to the in-law father, I heard you treated our Chloe just like your own daughter. Please take good care of Chloe going forward." Aunt Sarah was volunteering to be my mother-in-law right there, ensuring I would never be disrespected by my mother-in-law again. Lily's stepdad also asked my in-laws to take good care of me. Seeing the two of them support me made me secretly shed many tears. After the marriage, Lily and I became inseparable. Determined never to be separated again, we often visited each other's homes. My mother-in-law's plan to favor her younger daughter-in-law and isolate me completely backfired. Having heard how my mother-in-law had abused me, Lily was cold towards her from the beginning. My mother-in-law was preoccupied with trying to win over Lily. My dear second daughter-in-law, could you come and show your face for a bit? No, I'm busy that day. I'm sorry, mother. My mother-in-law was very embarrassed and dejected, and Aunt Sarah and her husband send generous gifts to my in-laws on holidays, saying, "Please take good care of our daughters." After that, my mother-in-law truly couldn't say anything to me. The entire family, including the admirable Lily, was on my side. Only then did my mother-in-law try to act friendly toward me. However, the emotional wounds she inflicted were too deep. I know she's not genuinely sorry, but is only acting this way because her position has become unfavorable, which makes it harder to forgive her. Even so, after 3 years, I still get along well with my husband and the rest of the in-laws family. Lily recently gave birth to a son. I often go to her house and help with childcare like a true sister. Soon, my younger brother is getting married, and Aunt Sarah and her husband have offered to attend his engagement meeting and sit in the parents' seats. They also gave my brother a generous wedding gift of 10 million won. My brother tried not to accept it, but Aunt Sarah told him, "If your parents were in my position, they would have done more. I am able to live well now all thanks to your parents. Just accept it as a gift from your parents." Thus, I am living a very happy life with this miraculous reunion and connection. It makes you wonder if fate really exists in the world. I intend to continue cherishing this miraculous connection I've been given. I think my parents in heaven are also very proud to see us reunited after so long. In this world, which is both wide and narrow, no one knows when, how, or in what form human connections will appear. Therefore, it seems we must always cherish every relationship. Good connections eventually lead to good outcomes, and bad ones return with bad endings. To avoid suffering the harsh consequences of our actions, like my mother-in-law, we must never lose the heart to respect everyone we meet. I hope my story gives you a moment to think about the preciousness and mystery of connections. Wishing a wonderful connection finds its way to you all. I will end my story here. Thank you so much for listening. Please join us with a subscription and a like. Thank you.